Hi everyone, welcome to Wednesday afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. I can see a few people popping in already that have been on previous Growth Week sessions, so it's good to see you back. If this is your first out of the Growth Week sessions and you've come along to hear about how you can use big data to increase your RTO's enrolments, you are in the right place. We have Melanie MacDonald waiting in the wings. Melanie is the expert in this area. Her business is all about using big data to help RTOs grow. Hi, Tamara. Good to see you. Tamara's leading the way and showing us exactly what we need to do. Today, drop your shout outs, hellos, and questions into the chat window. We'll make sure that Melanie sees them and is able to respond to any queries that you have. I'll also let you know that today's session is being recorded. So we've got some people who have been able to make it for the live session just now, but we've also got some people who have registered. If you're watching this via recording, you will have gone into the Veta portal, logged in and accessed the recording that way. Hi, Sedef. Hi, Kynan. Good to see you. I hope I've pronounced that all correctly. We'll also just keep an eye on the chat. As I said, I'll be in the background helping monitor things as Melanie goes through the session. Now, I'll flick over to introduce Melanie. Melanie's business, Mana Social, is great at helping businesses grow. So as I said, if this is your objective and this is your aim, you are in the right place. So I'm going to hand over to Melanie because she's the expert in this area, and we're about to find out why it is that you look at something on the internet and then the next thing you know, it's in your feed, and how you can use that to grow your business. Hi, Melanie. Welcome.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me. I suspect that actually in the last 12 months since I've started talking about this stuff that more and more people actually know a bit about it. I think 12 months ago it was an enormous shock to people. But I'm going to try and focus on what's changed more recently and what's useful. So first of all, everyone, thanks for coming. I know that RTO life and life in general is kind of changing week by week at the moment. So I will do my best to give you as much useful content as I can and make it worthwhile to take an hour out of your day. And at the end of this, I'm actually going to give you a bit of a list of things you can go away and do straight away. If you've got any questions, as Michelle said, just pop them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them all. Just before I get started, I had a quick look through the names of the people that were here, and I don't think that any of you have heard me present on this topic before, but if you have, can you just pop something in the chat box, apart from tomorrow, and let me know, and I'll make sure that I try and give you a mixture of new stuff and things that I might have already talked about. We'll just get straight into the content. If you want to know more about us, I'll tell you at the end, but I know you've got lots to do. All you probably need to know is that we have had our own RTOs, sold one to a publicly listed company, grew another one to a couple of thousand students a year, fully fee for service. I've also had some very stressful times in RTO land, so I've got lots of sympathy and admiration for people that are still running them. Now, I'm going to try not to get too deep into the technical, boring detail, but just to give you enough to be able to implement some things. I do get a bit carried away with the text sometimes, forgive me. Some of this stuff is pretty amazing in terms of the developments of technology in such a really short time. Now, this is what we're going to cover. 4 topics. I'm going to try and spend about 10 minutes on each one and then give you a bit of a to-do list at the end. I'm going to talk about some Google stuff, going to talk about some Facebook stuff, going to talk about messenger automation, and going to talk about email automation in a nutshell. Now, let me just tell you a very brief story from my own RTO experience that will put it in context, and then we will get on with these topics. About 15 years ago, when I was running, now I've been out of my own RTO for a couple of years now, and I've been helping other RTOs grow. So my personal experience of running an RTO is now a couple of years out of date, but I've been sort of sitting on the sidelines and helping some others since then. So about 15 years ago, I was running an RTO that mostly did corporate groups, business to business type stuff. And it was very lumpy. Like anyone who's in that business to business kind of space knows that you'll get a big group of students, then you might get nothing. And I hired somebody, and to cut a very long story short, hired a marketing manager. And he said, why don't we focus on recruiting individual students? It'll be much less lumpy. I was quite nervous about it. He said there's this new thing called Google Ads. I was like, oh, that will never work. In a nutshell, we went from 200 students a year to 2,000 students a year in the space of about 18 to 20 months, just by moving into some digital advertising. Now, a lot has changed since then, and there are a lot more available tools as well, which I'll show you something in a second on that. But one of the things that really helped us, and one of the things that I'm really keen on these days, is automation for sales and marketing. And as soon as I start talking about automation, people go, oh, but I pride myself on our personalized service. And it's like, yeah, that's why we have automation, so that we can personalize the important things and automate the routine, repetitive, boring tasks. Let me just show you this. I'll explain this in a second, but has anybody seen the new documentary that's on Netflix, The Social Dilemma? If you have, let me know in the chat. And if you haven't, then you should probably watch it. Or The Great Hack on Netflix, which was a year or so ago. That is about sort of social media companies and how they target people and all that sort of stuff. And you've probably seen plenty of controversy in the news over the last 12 months or so about the use of big data to target people. For everything from the US elections down to selling, soft drinks. So yeah, go watch The Social Dilemma. It just came out in the last week or two. It's mind-blowing. But let me explain in plain English what big data is, and then I'll explain what it has to do with RTOs. So here's one way to think about it. Say you are thinking about going on a holiday and can't go very far at the moment, so you decide that you want to go camping. So you walk into one of the big brand camping stores like BCF or somewhere like that, and you spend quite a bit of time hanging around in the aisle where they sell tents. You don't buy a tent, but you spend your time hanging about there. So your phone knows that you're in there. It knows where you are. It probably knows what, depending on how the camping store has got their technology set up, it probably knows what aisle you're in. I'll tell you why this is relevant to RTOs in a minute, I promise. It knows what aisle you're in. It knows which section you're looking at in that aisle. So you might have turned off location services on your phone because you've caught on to this, but you won't have turned it off in every single app that you have. So you might have downloaded Candy Crush or something, one of the games, and somewhere on page 32 of those terms and conditions, it says, do you agree to me collecting your location and selling that to third parties? And you've happily ticked yes because you didn't read them. So Candy Crush finds out where you are, and it sells that little bit of information to a big data company. And it says, Michelle's been in boating, camping and fishing outside the tents. Doesn't really mean much yet. It's just one little data point. Then Michelle, I'm using you as my example. Michelle goes to, she messages her family and says, what do you think about going on a camping holiday, these school holidays? And unless she's using one of the encrypted messenger apps like WhatsApp, if she's just using any kind of normal messenger service, it picks up the keyword camping and it sells that to the big data company. But those big data companies are companies like Axiom and Experian and people like that. I've got something to show you of that in a moment. So now we know two things. We know that she was hanging around in boating, camping and fishing, and we know that she messaged somebody and said, do you want to go camping? Then maybe she buys something with her credit card, like a little gas cooker or something like that. And the credit card company grabs that bit of information, adds it into the bucket called things we know about Michelle. And then maybe uses her flybys or something else to go and buy something else. And what the data company is looking at is, we're now seeing that Michelle has intent to go camping. So she's not searching for camping. She's not on Google Googling camping spots or anything like that, although she might be. She could add that on. So there's nothing that she thinks that she's done that's announced to the world that she wants to go camping. Then I come along, say, and I sell sleeping bags, and I go to the data company and I go, give me all the people in Brisbane who are thinking of going camping in the next few months and haven't purchased a sleeping bag. And they scroll through and they go, there's no record of her purchase of a sleeping bag, but there is a record that she's got intent to go camping, and they give me Michelle. And I'll explain to you in this presentation how they give me Michelle, because I don't get her name and phone number. I get anonymized digital data that I can use to then chase Michelle around the internet and drop a advertisement in there that says, do you want to buy this sleeping bag on sale for $59? And then because she's a busy working parent, she goes, yeah, I'm not going to go and shop around. $59 seems good. I'm just going to buy it. We do exactly the same thing for RTOs, and you can do it for yourself. So we did one, for example, for the Diploma of Project Management, where we went through, and I'll show you how in a moment, and we worked out that this RTO's typical project management student was a tradie, they were male, they were over 30, they were married, they had children in school, they had a mortgage, and they were buying lots of painkillers at the pharmacy. And we didn't know that about any one individual one of them, but we took the whole cohort of students' details and we ran the program through them, and it said this is what they've got in common, these people, based on what the big data companies know about them. So then we sat down and said, okay, well, what does that tell us? That tells us that these are tradies whose bodies are hurting, but they can't quit their jobs because they've got commitments. And then we helped the RTO put together a campaign, which was, do you want to get off the tools? Have you thought about doing project management? So promoting the career rather than the course, and then the course is just a tool to get into the career. So if you haven't heard of all of this before, it's quite freaky and spooky. I just see that does what happened in Michelle's world. Yeah, they stalk you, don't they, Michelle? Now, we can use this for good to help our prospective students find us. If you're actually one of the good RTOs and you're actually giving people courses that will change their career and change their life, then that's probably a pretty good use of this data. Because one of the things that we forget sometimes in all the focus on RTO business and compliance and finance and changes is that we're actually education providers and we change lives. And if we can make sure that the people who are going to benefit actually know about us, then that's a good thing, I think, if you're using it for good. Now, 1 or 2 years ago, all this stuff was only really available to really big organizations like big banks and supermarkets and American presidential candidates. But these days, you could be a small RTO, you could be a one-person operation, and you could actually use this. I'll show you how. Now, this slide, I just wanted to show you to give you a sense of the context. This slide shows you how many different tools, technologies, platforms, apps, whatever you want to call them, that are available to use for sales and marketing each year. So as you'll see, 9 years ago, 2011, there were about 150 different tools. This year, there's 8,000. Let me just zoom in and show you. So that is this year's. That's still, I might actually go a bit closer and show you again. That's those little blobs that look like islands. Those are logos of all the different tools that you can use. So you'll see in this little blob here, that's search and social advertising. So we tend to think of digital advertising for RTOs as being Google or Facebook, or maybe Instagram. But there are squillions of other tools. I actually got a voucher for $500 worth of free advertising sent to me the other day for Pornhub, which I probably shouldn't have told you that on the recording. I don't know why, I'm not their target audience, but there are so many different places that you can do digital advertising. It's a matter of figuring out where your target audience are. The other one that's sending out a lot of free vouchers, anybody who wants to advertise on TikTok at the moment is getting a $300 voucher for free. So there's all sorts of them. But if you look to the right there, that 8,000 different solutions that are available this year, 1,258 of them are data companies or data apps and tools and things like that. 1,969 social type stuff. So there are tons, is the short version of this answer. Now, one of the challenges is that there's a lot of clutter. It's really hard to know what tactics to use. And one of the things that I've realized is that over the years for my own RTO and then for other people's is that it is really important to start with strategy first and then choose your tactics. Like, do I want to use the $300 TikTok voucher? I don't know, because it might be free advertising, but there's a lot of work to put the ads together and set up the system and the process and everything. And what worked for somebody selling sleeping bags on the internet probably doesn't work for RTOs. And what worked last year probably won't work this year. So there's so many new ones all the time, but there's two basic principles that are universal. And that is that whatever you're doing, whether you're selling sleeping bags, whether you're selling training courses, you've got to attract inquiries, and then you've got to be able to convert those inquiries into enrollment. And they need to be considered separately. Like, there's no point in getting leads if you can't convert them into enrollments. It just takes time and money. And most of us RTO owners have wasted a bucket of money at some point getting leads that didn't convert. And you'll find that even when you start doing any of this stuff, initially you will get a lot of leads that don't convert immediately. And then it's a question of optimizing. So you need to get B, it's actually reverse. You need to get B right before you start on A. So you need to know that your process can take an inquiry and turn it into enrollment before you spend a bucket of money on getting new enrollments, on getting new inquiries. Does that make sense? So actually, just as an aside, let me just quickly change this one. First thing to think about is, who are your clients? Is it business to business or is it business to consumer? So are the people that you need to sell to companies or job network providers, whatever they're called this week, those kind of organizations who are then going to send, or schools who are then going to send you individual students, or are they the individual students themselves? And something just to think about, if you're going to use an outside agency to do, say, for example, for your Facebook ads, make sure that you go, if you're a B2B type organization, make sure you go with one that's got B2B experience. It's actually sold to businesses. There's lots of 21-year-olds that can sell fashion online and they're really good at it. If you try and get them to do advertising for your RTO, they'll want you to give discount vouchers and things like that. Ask me how I know. And that's generally because the 21-year-olds are in a consumer kind of space. They're consumers, they're not business people. And, you know, probably speaking up for the over 40s, the older entrepreneurs probably more focused on business problems. Anyway, sidebar, but it did explain to me why I'd had a failure with someone that I hired at one time to do ads for my RTO. Just going to very quickly talk about B2B versus B2C. Take 1 second, and then we're going to go through some of these tools. Now, if you are B2B, the employer is the client or the school or the job network provider, you need to think about where you're going to find them. That's more of a traditional sales model a lot of the time. You know, it's getting out there, networking, hunting, things like that. The thing to do with that, if you're going to use any kind of big data type systems for B2B, is that your strategy probably needs to be an attraction type strategy. It's about targeting those organizations and bringing them to you. So you're not having to cold call training managers, go, can I come and have a meeting with you? They probably won't take your call, and you know, it's kind of annoying. So that attraction strategy, it just seems like word of mouth, but it's much more strategic. It's, for example, it's saying, let's find all the people who work for Job Active, is that what they're called this week? Job Active, and let's place these pieces of content in front of them on the internet to position ourselves as an expert. Could be articles that you've written, it could be little videos and things like that, but you know, they're in various places on the net, whether they're reading the newspaper or playing a game, and your stuff pops up and they go, oh, these people seem to know their stuff. So business to business is very much about a content strategy, but it's a targeted content strategy where you're actually dropping it in front of people, which I'll show you how to do in a moment. Now, benefits of business to business RTOs, as you know, those of you that are in it, is that there's less need to have a whole sales team on the phone. It's generally less dependent on funding, but it depends where you are. But you know, you get the right kind of business contacts, and they will continue to send you their new people, funded or not. That was our experience anyway. And you get repeat business, of course. Downside, like I said at the start, it's very lumpy financially. It feels risky. Depends on the economy. As we've seen this year, you know, if you're a hospitality RTO doing stuff for employers, traineeships, probably pretty tough at the moment. The trainees are staying, but there's probably not a lot of new ones starting. And the sales cycle is longer. They don't sort of inquire one day and enroll the next. Now, just quickly on the business to consumer, where the student is the customer. And this is important to think about, because when you're targeting, it's like, who are you targeting, the student or the decision maker? You've got to think about the demographic and where to find them. So, you know, are they mostly on Instagram? Are they younger than that? Are they on TikTok? Are they older than that? Are they on Facebook? Like, what age group? Where are you going to find them? There's no point in having business development managers going out hunting, because, you know, apart from in probably the worst days of vet fee help, when there were people in shopping centres going, hey, do you want to do a course? Generally, you can't do it that way with individuals. The lowest hanging fruit with these is to use something like Google, which is people who are actually looking for your course, and they've typed in, you know, diploma of hospitality or whatever. And obviously you want those people because they already want you. Then the mid-level fruit on that is people that have typed it in, not inquired, and then you want to chase those ones around the internet because they're semi-interested. And I'll show you how to do that without knowing who they are. And then the biggest tier, but the slowest ones, are people who meet your target profile of the perfect student, but don't even know they want to do it yet, like our project management guys that I was talking about before. Hopefully this is making sense somewhere along the way. Let me know if it's not, or if you want me to clarify anything, please do. Now, advantages of individuals, B2C, easy to scale it up. The revenue's smooth. It's good at times like this in a downturn because individuals want to actually go and get trained because they don't know what's going to happen to their jobs. And it's a pretty short sales cycle. The cons, the downside, is that you need a process. You need a sales team and process to actually take those inquiries and turn them into an enrolment. And it's not just they phoned up and I talked to them and they want to enroll. It's a following up, nurturing kind of process, which is where some automation comes in handy. And sometimes some of those people are quite funding oriented. They go, oh no, these guys are doing it with some government funding, so I don't want to do yours. You also don't get necessarily much repeat business, and you need to be really careful about the consumer law about paying for referrals and things like that. Okay, back to our main areas then. So attracting inquiries and converting to enrolment. So we're going to talk about attracting inquiries first, but in fact converting to enrolment is the bit you have to get right before this works. So these ones in yellow are what we're going to cover. Some stuff about Google Ads, GDN, which I'll explain that to you, and that is something that is free and really powerful and hardly anyone's using that. I'll explain it in a moment, and then we'll talk a little bit about Facebook. There's a bunch of others, of course, but we're not going to cover those today. Okay, first one, Google. So you probably know, if you've been in any kind of RTO student recruitment marketing space at the moment, that there are two kinds of Google, if you like. There's the paid Google and there's the free Google. So you can pay for a Google ad, that'll make you show up at the top of the page. Or you can have a website that is popular and has got good content and everything, and Google will put you on that front page anyway for free. So obviously the end game for most people is to try and get the free Google, so you're not paying for every click, but the paid Google is a good starting point to boost it up. Now, I'm going to show you another free Google, though, that works really well in a second. I just want to show you this along the way so it will make sense. So these are New Zealand links. I wanted to make sure that we didn't have any Australian providers on this presentation. So if you Google this one, they've Googled Diploma of Beauty Therapy, and this is what's come up. And see the ones with the little green box that says add to the left of them? They've all paid. And then that last one at the bottom, Victoria University, that's a free one. So they've come up. Now, Google Ads is how we got our RTO into the Fast 100 that time. Google Ads then got really expensive during the vet fee help time, but they're quite reasonable again these days, and they have got cheaper with everything that's happened this year. We're getting clicks this week for an RTO for 44 cents a click. So even if 1 in 20 of those turns into an inquiry, that's like $9 per lead. That's pretty cheap. So there are a couple of things though that are going to make a big difference. I mean, it's one thing paying for a click. It's another thing actually having that turn into someone. So these guys have paid for a click. Say it cost them 44 cents. Usually it's going to cost them $4 or $5. And they've sent them here. This is where, when they click through, this is what they see. Now, I don't know about you, but that is not going to make me sign up and do their course. So many people do paid Google and then send them to the wrong place, because there's 4 costs that you need to think about with Google. There's the cost per click, then there's the cost to actually turn them into a lead, so what percentage of those clicks actually acquire. Then there's the cost to retarget them, that's the cost to chase them around the internet until they enroll. And then you've got your final cost per enrollment. So no point in having cheap clicks if they're the wrong people or you're sending them to the wrong place. That's a better version. They're paying for a click and they're sending them here, and at least it's got a call to action. It's got enroll now, it's got download a free prospectus. It's actually probably got too many calls to action, really, because the more choices you give people, the less likely they are to inquire. You're better off just to give them one thing to do, like download something and give us your details. And then you can do all the other stuff with them later, but you want to capture them first. Now, the good news is that these days, even if they don't fill out that form, the fact that they have visited the website means that we can still market to them. We know who they are, even without their details. I'll explain that in a moment too. But let me just show you the other Google trick that's very cool and hardly being used in Australia and not being used by RTOs at all. And this is something you can do yourself for free. So you might have heard a while ago of Google Maps. That's when, if you're looking for a restaurant, so you're looking for, Thai restaurant in Carlton in Melbourne or something, and you put that in and you get the map that comes up and shows you where the Thai restaurants are. And in Australia, pretty much the only people that are using that, it used to be called Google Maps, now it's called Google My Business, GMB. Pretty much now the only people that are using it are like retailers and restaurants and things, but you can use it if you're an RTO. So here's one that we set up, and I'll show you why. We've set it up for a couple of RTOs that we've worked with. The first one that we set this up for, we set it up on the Friday. It's all free. You don't pay anything to Google to do it. By the Monday, they had 430 people click through from it. So it's a really good way of getting free inquiry from people who are looking for what you have. So I thought I would grab this client of ours screenshots and show you. So this is what shows up if you Google strata management certificate or something like that in New South Wales. The name of the business, and see this circled red overview. That's normally what you see. If you're looking at a restaurant, it gives you the address. I can't scroll down on it, but it's, the address, the opening hours, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of RTOs have gone that far with it. They've put their location on a map. However, this is the magic. You'll see that across that menu, if I just go back, your overview updates product services, and there's actually a whole bunch more things if we scroll across. So we can put products in there. So you can actually put all your courses and put their name and their course code and all that sort of stuff. So if someone is Googling looking for, BSB, blah, 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 Diploma of Leadership and Management or something, they'll actually find it. It'll show up, and you have these little boxes here, and you click on one of them and it takes you through to the course information. It's all free. Then you'll see there's more stuff. There's services, there's reviews, use photos. So you can put photos up there, you can put articles in there, reviews go there. So it's almost like a little mini website hosted by Google that is free, that is really well indexed. The thing is, because nobody's doing this in Australia, there's no competition for that real estate. And when you Google something, that comes up first. That's above everything. It's above the ads. It's above all the things. So if you haven't got that set up, I suggest you do it while it's free. The US, people use it all the time, but for some reason here, nobody's really gotten into it. I don't know why. Maybe there's no agencies setting it up for people or something. So that's the first thing. Let's have a quick conversation about Facebook and some of the preconceptions about Facebook. Anyone who's tried Facebook and goes, I did Facebook and it doesn't work, don't boost posts, because if you boost a post, who knows who you're going to get, and you have to really narrowly target in Facebook. Otherwise, you spend a whole lot of money on showing your ads to kids playing games on their parents' phones and things like that. So there's 3 options to think about with Facebook. There's if you've already got traffic, there's if you, and so who got people coming into your website already or into your Facebook. If you don't have people coming in, but you know who your perfect student is, and if you've got no idea who you should be targeting. So I'll just quickly show you what you need to do for each one. So the first thing, if you've already got people, you can use Facebook to clone your existing students. So say you've got a list of people who've completed your course, because you don't necessarily just want the ones who enrolled, do you? We want the ones who've actually finished, because they're the ones that are a success story, both in terms of score and completion rates, and if you're funded, then those are the ones you actually get paid more for. So you can take that list and you can then use Facebook to clone them. Facebook will trawl through that list without you giving away the data, supposedly. And they will work out what all those people have in common, and then they will show your content to people just like that. If you go into Facebook Business Manager, it's called Lookalike Audiences. If you Google Lookalike Audiences, you should be able to find that. If you've already got students and plenty of them, that's the best way to get more of them. Another way is if you don't know who they are, you can go into, but you've got plenty of traffic, you can go into the back end of your Facebook page. And this will tell you people that have visited if you've got Facebook connected up to your website with a thing called a pixel. Sorry, I'm throwing lots of information at you, I know, but I'll show you in a moment what that is. Then Facebook tracks everybody who visits your website, and Facebook knows who they are, whether they leave their details or not. And Facebook collects this information. So for this client of ours, we went in the back end. They've had 9,300 people up here in the top left that have visited their Facebook or their website or something that Facebook has been able to identify. Interestingly, Facebook said 94% of them are women. And if you look at the age range, they're mostly women and they're mostly 35 to 54. Now, that makes sense when you know what course that they do, and it's a course that would appeal to this demographic more. We can find out a whole lot more about our audience as a cohort as well. So we can find out their relationship status. Hers are married women, seems to be. A lot fewer single ones, a lot more married ones. And they are slightly higher educated than the average Facebook user as well. Now, we can also find out a whole bunch of other things about them. Like in her case, what are the top 10 things that as a group, her audience is interested on the internet? And you'll start to guess what kind of course that she has when you look at the interests. So her people are interested in this photographer that photographs sort of families running around in white linen looking beautiful and things. They're interested in the Woodford Folk Festival, in this crystal place, performing arts, Melanie Dairies, which is the milk company up here that does organic type milk. They're interested in natural therapy, quitting sugar, female health. So you're starting to get, even if you don't know any of these people yourself, you're starting to get a really good picture of who am I talking to and how should I talk to them. What you then do is you go to Facebook and go, give me more people like this. I know what I want to say to them to attract them to do my course. Does that sort of make sense so far? I hope. Okay, if you don't have the traffic, but you know who your perfect student is, you do this sort of thing in Facebook. So this is one, we've got a client in the USA. This is one that we are setting up for ourselves to try and attract education providers in the USA to use our services. So we chose a few states that were, reasonably affluent states. We chose an age group, and then we went for a few different interests. So people who are interested in college admissions, student services. So people who recruit students, basically. Then we set up some exclusions. So we want people who are interested in recruiting students, but not people who are students. And that's why we set our lower age limit at 25. So we don't want the kids that are looking to go to college. We want the people who are looking for the kids. You can then go through, you'll see here on the right-hand side, there's all sorts of other stuff that we can actually target them by, like what school did they already go to, what courses have they already done, what level are they educated to, what life events, so are they married, have they had a baby, like what else has happened. So you can really narrow down exactly who you want. Without knowing your current students, you can just kind of work out, like, this is who I think they would be, and you can try for that audience. This is a US client of ours who does yoga teaching, teaches yoga teachers basically. So we went, okay, we want people who are interested in mindfulness and wellness and a bunch of things that I hadn't heard of that they had, and went after that particular audience. So this is still all in the back end of Facebook, but it's nothing like boosting posts where you just go age, gender, location, and that's about it. You can get really, really detailed. Now, this assumes, of course, that you've got some sort of a clue of who your students would be, but what if you just have no idea? So I want to sell sleeping bags or project management diplomas, but I don't know who's buying sleeping bags or project management diplomas. Then I can go to one of these kind of companies and buy what they call third-party audiences. So this is the stuff I was talking about at the beginning, the big companies that collect up all this information about us. You might have seen something in the news recently about one of the big Chinese data companies that's owned by the Chinese government, but the American data companies have been doing this for years. So Axiom is one of them, this one here on the slide. Experian is the other big one. You've probably heard of them because they bought all the Australian credit reporting companies like Baycorp, Vita Advantage. If you've ever applied for a mortgage or something, then the bank would have gone to Experian and found out all sorts of things about you, far more than you could possibly imagine these days. Like these days now, if you apply for a mortgage, the bank knows what ATMs have you taken cash out of and how close are they to casinos, for example. And if all the ATMs you've taken cash out of are within walking distance of the casino, then that's going to be a black mark on you applying for a mortgage. It's impossible to hide now. But these companies, so this Axiom, for example, they have this data guru service. So you can go to them, they're really helpful. And you can go to them and say, look, I'm an RTO, I teach a project management diploma. I think my target audience are probably tradies. They probably don't have any other qualifications except for their trade. Can you see if you can find me a bucket of people that would want to do project management? And they will work with you to figure out who it is. And then they will give you a bunch of anonymized data that you can then upload into Facebook or Google or whatever platform you're using and run your content so that only those people see it. The plus side for you as a provider, apart from getting the really targeted audience, is that it's much cheaper because you're only, if you put an ad on the television or the radio, you're paying for everybody to hear it. If you do an ad this way, you're only paying for it to be in front of the people that are actually interested, because you pay per person or per click or per impression or whatever. So it's far more cost effective, really narrow casting the ads rather than broadcasting them. Now, if anyone at this point is starting to feel like sales and marketing is a bit yuck, let me tell you another just quick story. So I started off as a chemistry graduate, and we're not really known for our enthusiasm about sales and marketing. Like, I absolutely grew up in that kind of culture of salespeople make me want to go and have a shower. And even when I was running my RTO, I was like, I'm not going to be pushy. If people want to do my course, they should do it. It's just yuck to try and make them do it. And then we were, many years ago, as I mentioned before, we ended up in the BRW Fast 100 list, which is fastest growing companies in Australia. There was another RTO in that list. Like, we were number 91 and they were number 7 or something. Completely different culture to ours. Very, very salesy kind of culture. I think they used to even give, like, sports cars to their top selling person and all this stuff that just made me, ugh. Anyway, very interesting conversation, really likable people. They were really nice. And the guy had said to me, so we had, at that stage, we had a beauty college. So I'd had the management college and we had this beauty therapy school. Don't judge me. And we had the beauty college, and we had about 100 students enrolled. I'd had it for about a year. And they had 1,000 students in their college, and they were doing fitness, personal training. And he was saying to me, there's no reason you should have the same number of students as us. The audience for beauty is the same size as the audience for fitness. And so he was really grilling me about what our sales process was. And I said, well, they inquire. If they want to enroll, they enroll. If they don't, we don't want to push them. And he said, so how many of the ones that inquire with you, when you follow them up later, they've enrolled somewhere else? And I said, quite a few. And he said, but obviously that other beauty college is much better college than you. And I said, no, they're better at sales, but they're an awful college. Like, I would not want to hire someone who'd worked there, who'd trained there. And he pointed out to me, I'm probably not explaining it that well, but he pointed out that why would you market to people, get them excited about doing beauty therapy, let them inquire, send them out some really good information about beauty therapy, only to warm them up to go and get preyed upon by the dodgy beauty college up the road and end up having them enrolling there? Like, you've got a responsibility to follow it through to the end and get them enrolled. And it was, for me, it was probably the first time I'd actually thought about it of, actually, he might have a point. There's still some other stuff that I may not have agreed with, but he does have a point about sales is not bad if what you're selling is good. Anyway, I'm probably convincing myself that as much as everyone else. Now, let me just quickly show you. See, we're getting low on time. The other half. So you get all these inquiries. There's 1,000,001 ways to get inquiries now. That is not that hard. Of course, we've then got to be able to filter them, because if you're doing this kind of social media kind of marketing, for every 100 inquiries you get, you're probably going to get 3 or 4 enrollments these days. That's anyone who tells you you're going to get a higher percentage than that is probably filtering them before they get to. I mean, you could set it so that you only get 10 inquiries and they're highly qualified, but they'll cost you more. So it works out the same in the end. So you get 100 inquiries at a decent price, at, a few dollars each. You're probably going to get 3 or 4 enrollments out of that. If you can improve that from 4 enrollments to 5 enrollments, that's a 25% increase in the return on the investment. So anything that you can do to improve your conversion is well worth doing. 2 things I was going to show you for this. Before I do, remarketing, I just wanted to mention that. I've sort of touched on this, but not really explained what it is. With all of these platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Google, whatever, they all have a system, a tool in there where you can actually go back again and show your content to people that have already visited you once. So I come along, I look at your website, I don't actually fill out the form or do anything, but the website uses a cookie and it tracks me and it goes, oh, I know who that was. Then I can go back to, as long as I've got those cookies on my website from Facebook, from Google, everyone, it costs nothing to put them on there. You may as well put them on there now and track whether you're going to use them or not. It's still, at least you've got the data. 6 months' time, you might decide you want to retarget all your website visitors. At least you've got 6 months worth of visitors there to target. And then retarget those people is going to reduce the cost of your marketing a lot, because then not only are you only advertising to the people who are interested in your course, you're advertising to the people who are interested in your course and visited your website. So those are people who are seriously interested. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So 2 ways that are working really well at the moment to nurture people from inquiry to enrolment without you spending a lot of time on it. And the first one is what they call messenger automation. I don't know if anyone is, if you're using Facebook Messenger, I'm on the Queensland Health Messenger bot at the moment, so it sends me a message every time there's a virus outbreak in the suburb near me or whatever. There's all sorts of government departments using them. Telstra's got one. Now, messenger robots are really annoying when they're pretending to be a human. Like if you're trying to talk to someone on a phone company website and they're saying they're pretending to be a person and they're not, that's really annoying. But if you're the potential student and you want to find out more about the course and you don't want to have to talk to someone and get sold to because RTOs are annoying because they keep chasing me, then the messenger automation is a really low pressure way of getting them the information that they need. And you can get something like ManyChat or one of those messenger automation platforms for about $10 a month US. They're really cheap. I was going to show you. Oh, it's pretty not, it's a bit blurry. That sort of funny looking waterfall thing is what you set up in the background. So it's kind of like a drag and drop thing. It's like you send them a message, then depending on how they reply, you send them another message, then it might branch off into 3 different. So typically, actually there's one on our website if you want to go and have a play with it. But typically, you might say, we've got 3 different qualifications. Which course are you interested in? They click one. Then it's like, have you got previous experience in that? You might send them down the RPL path or not. Are you a group? Are you an individual? Like you can filter. And then you get to the end of this process and you might say, would you like to talk to an actual person? Click here to book in a time to talk or to send us a message or something like that. So it's a really nice way of filtering people and maintaining conversations with every single person who inquires without you spending time on any except for the ones who are actually motivated at the end. So that's something I would seriously consider that you do if you're not doing it. This Facebook's got a little bit of messenger automation, but it's not quite there yet. You're better off to pay the extra $10 and use one of the plugins that will do much more detailed campaigns and conversations. And from that messenger automation, you can send them to email. You can email them. You can send them text message. You can give them a phone that's click to call, whatever you want to. The other way of doing it, instead of doing it in Messenger, so that is to do it in email, of course. Depends how you target audiences. If you're aiming for young people, school leavers, they don't read their emails, so you're probably much better off to use Messenger for them. If you've got people who are office-based adults, then email is probably fine. That blob there are all the different email marketing platforms that exist at the moment, all the major ones anyway. The ones that we mainly use are MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, and Infusionsoft. MailChimp because it's free and it's a good starting point. Once you start using the paid MailChimp, you're probably better off to upgrade to something like ActiveCampaign or Infusionsoft, but there are zillions of them and they've all got their pros and cons. But they can do same sort of thing as with the messenger automation. You have this, build this campaign, you send them stuff. If they click on this or if they open this or if they do this, you send them something else. If they don't do it, you branch off. So you can nurture them along through email. Once you've built it, you don't have to keep on going back. And then at the end, you're just talking to the people that are interested, that are the warm leads. And you'll end up with this kind of data. So here's one for a diploma that we were doing for an RTO. So it will tell you, in the last 30 days, 52%, oh, hang on, it's not open rate. Where's the open rate? Open 66% of the people that received the email opened it. 52% of those people clicked on something. 0 spam complaints. 8 people out of the 785 opted out. So you get a lot of data and you can know what's working and what isn't. And if you've got a CRM and you're not looking at this data, I suggest you do, because you're going to find things out. You look at this and you find out we've got a 9% open rate. You might want to look at what you're sending and who you're sending it to and what's in your subject line and all that sort of thing. Okay, now just quickly, I want to give you 6 things that you can do yourself today that cost nothing that will help with some of the stuff. First one is, if you are considering that at any time in the next 12 months doing any sort of Facebook or Google marketing, then you should do this now, because it's got to build up some data. If you do it today and start advertising tomorrow, it's not going to be as effective as if you've built some history. So you might have, now people get mixed up between Facebook Business Manager and a Facebook page. You might have a Facebook business page and you might have a Facebook ad account, but unless you've actually consciously gone and set up Facebook Business Manager, which is that thing I was showing you before where you select all the audiences and all that, you probably haven't got it. So go in and set up Facebook Business Manager, and within there are instructions on how to create a thing called a pixel, which is a tracking cookie. And then go stick that pixel on your website in the back end. Sounds harder than it is. It's not that hard. Costs nothing. And do the same thing with your Google ad account. And so you've got a tracking cookie from Facebook and from Google on your ad account, on your website, so that in the future, if you want to go and find those people who've been visiting you and being quiet and keeping it a secret, you can find them and you can talk to them. Now, I'll just show you. See this first blue arrow there where there's like some funny brackets and the little green tube? I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you're not watching this on your phone. That is a thing called Facebook Pixel Helper, which is a Chrome plugin. So if you aren't sure whether you've got these cookies on your site already, open up Chrome, download Facebook Pixel Helper plugin, and then open up your website in Chrome, and you'll see if it's got the little green box with a number, that's telling you how many pixel kind of events are set up on your site. If it's grayed out and it's got nothing, that means you've got nothing. If you do have a number, make sure it's a pixel that you own and not one that's owned by an agency that you might have hired 3 years ago to do some ads for you, because if they own it, they're still collecting all the data and they're going to use that to remarket someone else. So make sure you've got one, make sure it's yours. The other tool that we use about that second blue arrow is another Chrome plugin called Built With, which is one where you can go in, install that, and then click on it, and it will tell you, do you have, Google Pixel on your site? Do you have Google Analytics? All those sort of things. Right. Next thing that you can do straight away, make sure that if you're doing any paid marketing, make sure that wherever you're sending that traffic to, whatever the link is that you're giving them, is not just your home page, but it's a good optimized page with a call to action that's going to capture them in some way. Make sure if you haven't got it, make sure you've got Google Analytics installed on your site. If you have got Google Analytics installed on your site, actually have a look at them. Let me show you. I think I put a slide in here for that. So here's an example of some Google Analytics in the section that they call behavior flow. This tells you, it's a bit blurry, sorry. This tells you when someone arrived on your website, which page did they turn up at? So where did they start? Because it's not always the home page. They could have been driven there from search or something. Then the little red waterfall is how many left and didn't stick around. And then those other branches are where did they go from there? So a certain percentage of them went to one page, a percentage went to another. Then after that page, where did they go? So it will give you their journey. And if you're trying to market to people, you want to know what they do when they arrive. Do they just leave? Or do they actually go wandering about and look? If you had a shop, you would take notice of which displays people came and looked at. This is the same sort of thing, but virtually. So install Google Analytics if you don't have it. And if you do have it, actually start looking at it. Another thing just quickly that I would do is add a thing called a heat map to your website. So there's a couple of ones that you can get free trials of, like Hotjar or Mouseflow. Those are, I think I've got a picture of that as well. Yep. These are like an overlay that you can then go in and have a look, and it will tell you when people come to your site, what are they doing? Like you'll see on this one, The left-hand side is the heat map overlay. The right-hand side is just the other half of the website. See where it says 24 euros and there's all those funny clouds on it? That is a reflection of how many people have tried to click on the 24 euros. So if that's not clickable, you should make it clickable. If it is clickable, it's telling you they much prefer that product to the 79 euro product. So you can run that for a couple of weeks and have a quick look at what are people doing when they come to my website, and then you'll find out what they're actually interested in. Also, how far down do they scroll? If they don't even scroll down, you better make sure that what's in the top part of your screen is interesting for them. Okay, next one is the one I mentioned before, set up Google My Business. When you go in and do that, you have to have a physical address. Now, you can remove that later if it's your home, if you're working from home or something, but they will send you an actual postcard. Google from America will mail you a postcard to confirm that you really are who you say you are at that address. So if you go set it up now, it will take potentially some weeks. The last one we did, we'd have 3 goes at getting it because post is not getting delivered terribly well between trying to order something from America to Australia. It's a bit challenging just now. So get the postcard and then you can use that code to carry on with the process. And that's the one, I should come back to that, that is the one that actually gets you at the top of Google on what used to be Google Maps, where you can put all your products and your articles and everything. A couple of things not to do as well. Don't boost posts on Facebook unless you've got a very good strategic reason for doing it. But really, Facebook makes money out of that more than you. Short answer of that. And also remember, figure out your strategy before you get all excited about tactics. Most spontaneous marketing activities, like someone rings you up and says, do you want a voucher for, let me think a bit more carefully this time, do you want a voucher for TikTok? And you go, yeah, great. Probably isn't going to work unless you know why you're advertising on TikTok and who you're trying to advertise to. So work out your strategy, work out who you're trying to target, and then decide which platform you're going to use to get them. And pause for breath. That is us. If there's anything, I know I rattled through this really fast. If it's new to you, then if you're still here, then your probably brains exploded a little bit. More than happy if anyone wants to give me a call and I can just explain stuff or shoot me an email. I'm kind of a bit of a geek and get into this stuff, and I'm happy to just talk about it. So whether you're one of our clients or whether you just want, to pick my brains, you're more than welcome to have a chat. Okay, I'll stop for breath. Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Melanie. Just everyone who's on, if you could maybe just indicate in the chat whose head is spinning, but who has had some really good ideas come out of this session. I'd be very interested to hear, because when Melanie comes on to talk about this sort of stuff with our skills education audience, we typically find that everyone's a little bit shell-shocked and listening. But then Melanie has said, you go away and you digest it. And as Melanie just also said, very generous in saying, give me a call or email me and we can walk you through it. So I'll put it in before, but I'm going to dump it in again. This is the website for Melanie's business. And of course, her direct email and contact number is on the screen right now. So take the opportunity where you can to grab that. Plus, if you've been to the Skills Ed sessions and booked in on the Better portal, all of the information about Melanie's background and bio is on there. So it's just fantastic to be able to have someone who understands all of this tech, big data, potentially scary stuff until you get used to it, explain it. And a lot of people would typically go to boosting Facebook ads. So it's really insightful to hear from you, Melanie, that's not the best option to grow your business.
Thank you.
Some experience in the content that you've spoken about, but you've provided some value in additional aspects.
Oh, good, thank you. It's always nerve-wracking when you're talking to people that know this stuff, so thank you. I really appreciate that.
We should have had disclosure up the front.
Yeah. And actually, somebody had a question back about Google My Business. Yeah, if you work from home, you can start off by putting your street address in, and then you can change it later. But you just need to have it in there to start with to authenticate yourself, basically.
Yeah, and just a bit that was Tamara asking that question, and I did drop a couple of links in there. Experian for the big data company, Also the Lookalike Audience link. So folks, make sure you scroll back up the chat and pull those links out if you need them before we close off the webinar. But also the Google My Business link. Tamara had a question, how do you set up that Google My Business?
Actually, Tamara, because we actually already do some work for you, just ask Anthony and he'll kick it off for you. But for anybody else, if you just Google how to set up Google My Business, there'll be a form that you have to fill out, and then that kicks it off.
Yeah, and I'll just repost the link. So just if you confirm, if you'd know it off by heart, Melanie, just google.com/business.
Could be. Let me have a quick look.
That's the one that I found at a quick backstage Google search on the Google My Business. So I want to make sure that we're handing over the right information to everyone.
That is it. That's right.
Excellent.
And you need so you need a Google account first, but that could be a Gmail account or it could be whatever. But
that's easy to set up as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll also just make mention, given that this is particularly one of the topics that needs to sit and simmer and you find a lot of questions come out of it after the fact, just to let everyone know that we do have the live Q&A panel session on Friday. So if you haven't already registered, jump on. It's a special price ticket to the event as part of Growth Week. And you have the opportunity to ask a question of Melanie there. You can email it to pd@vetpdgroup.com.au and we'll make sure that is presented for Q&A. But honestly, to be able to access consultants in the area it's a 1.5 hour session, $45 a ticket. I don't know too many consultants that offer their services at that rate, Melanie.
No, not usually. By the way, somebody in this group is currently in our messenger bot talking to it. I can see you on our website. I can see you in the bot just saying.
Excellent.
Spying on you. The other thing is that we are business partners of a bunch of these different companies. So some of the email automation, messenger automation data. So we can usually get free trials or better rates and things like that. So if anyone wants links for anything to test it out, just shoot me a message and I'll send you our affiliate links. We probably get, $1 a month or something if you use our link, but I hope that you should also get a better deal out of it.
Excellent tip. All right. Now, Kynan's just saying about a handout. It's not automatic that presenters are putting up their slides as handouts. So I'll leave it with you to facilitate. If you just want to shoot Melanie an email, if there's any sort of handout that could be offered, you'll be able to access that.
Do people get copies of the slides though? Can they access them?
You're happy to do that? Okay. Well,
that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Folks, I'll do that just really quickly now. We've got already the Growth Week handout there where you can see Melanie's details. And if you just bear with me, I'll very quickly load these slides for you as the PDF, exactly what we've seen on the session today. So my internet's relatively fast. They should be saving and uploading as we're speaking. There they are, they've just popped up. So now's the time to jump on and grab that handout and download it onto your computer right now.
And if you miss them, just shoot me. If you're listening to the recording or something, just message me and I'll send you a copy of the PDF. That's fine.
Absolutely. And I'll just read out here, Tamara saying, I would recommend Mana Social to help you with their marketing. They've helped me set up and sort for me active campaign so I can spend time doing other things instead. And oh my goodness, how valuable is it to be able to get some time back in your day? And of course, Tamara knows all about that. She coaches people on how to get more time out of a day. So to have someone who coaches others in that aspect to say that that's such a valuable thing.
I'm going to screenshot that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably one of the best recommendations that you could get. So I'm just looking at the chat and making sure that we've addressed all of the questions that have come through. And Damon's put his hand up as the culprit on your chat.
Is allowed.
Busted big time, but that's awesome to know
how easy it is to spy on people on your website.
Exactly. You knew immediately. So if you put your stalker's hat on and think, I could be doing that to all my potential students, that's proof is in the pudding. So I'll leave it at that. Tomorrow we have Shemin Sensen coming on at our next Growth Week session, and change of pace altogether. Melanie's been talking to us about how to use big data to grow our business. Shemin's focusing back over to the compliance side of things and looking at how we can make sure that all of the learners in our courses are supported through their journey and towards competence. And as we know, the standards require RTOs to offer support so that students can successfully engage with and participate in whatever they're enrolled in. So that goes towards clause 1.7. And then tomorrow afternoon, we've got David Jepson. Again, it's a little bit linked to compliance in the sense that you are required to demonstrate financial viability of your business. And David's business is all about helping RTOs with their finances. He is an accountancy firm, but he specialises in helping RTOs. So that's another one not to be missed. And that brings us square up to 2 o'clock. So Melanie, I'd very much like to thank you again for being so generous in your time in preparing the session and coming on and to deliver live for us. And for everyone who is able to attend live, thank you very much for coming to spend a Wednesday afternoon with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Michelle. It was fun.
You're always welcome. And you're right, we do have a lot of fun. So thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Tamara. We'll see you then. Bye now.